what has happened today, and we can't blame anyone, is that the Minister of Trade and Industry was stuck in Oslo due to a technical issue on the airplane. They were on board, and one of the wheels were kaput. These things happen, very unfortunate, but we have been able, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Cecilie Myrseth, is with us. I'm not sure if you can see me, but I can clearly see you. And we will run the program as planned. We will have a presentation first by the Minister, and then we will have a panel discussion where also the Minister will join us. So, Cecilie Myrseth, you grew up in the North. You have had many political positions in the North, locally, regionally. You know the North better than almost everybody else in the government. And you have a strong commitment to the High North. And I'm sure you are also very sorry that you can't be with us, but we are so glad that you are not on the plane between Oslo and Bodø and couldn't be here at all. So we are looking very much forward to your perspectives and your introduction. So please, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Jan-Gunnar. And of course, I should really be with you, not here back in Oslo, but I cannot do magic with the planes. So here I am. So I hope you have a good afternoon in Bodø. One of the things I think is why I was looking so forward to meeting you is because you are people gathered who share the same vision as I do myself. The High North is Norway's most important strategic focus area. And indeed, the cold North is quite hot these days in more ways than one. From around the world, people are arriving in thousands to experience the majestic nature. And even in football, we have the world's attention. And trust me, even people from Tromsø like myself are excited about Bodø/Glimt's success. Aspmyra has become a theater of dreams. Indeed, the High North is an arena for many dreams and great opportunities, but we are also focused with a set of new realities. To begin with the new realities, we have the most serious security policy situation since the Second World War. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is continuing. Meetings now and talks are taking place, and we, of course, hope for a ceasefire. The Prime Minister Støre, who was also going to be with you today, is now in an important meeting in Paris with this as a topic. But the entire security situation in Europe has changed. At the same time, we are adjusting to a new US administration, which is challenging. It is challenging. And we also see a major shifts in US foreign and security policy, and of course in trade policies. And the result is a lot of uncertainties in all areas. The Norwegian government is now working around the clock to protect Norwegian companies and jobs to the possible effects of a trade war. And we have ongoing dialogues with our American and European counterparts. About 3% of Norwegian exports go directly to the US, while the majority of Norwegian exports go to the European market. I myself recently visited Brussels, where I had several meetings with the European Commission. We take every opportunity to underline that the possible EU safeguards should not affect Norwegian exports to the EU. We always highlight the importance of the single market, and we are part of the EEA agreement. So that should protect us, we think, because we need to avoid being caught between the US and the EU. And I know that many are worried. And then I will say, we are doing everything we can for that the safeguards will not hit the Norwegian market and businesses. It is important to the High North that it's because a major part of the export from our region is actually seafood, it's metals, minerals, and other industry products. And we are doing quite well. From a strategic standpoint, Norway's primary goal is the high north is to contribute to stability. Through new, robust investments in the long term of the defense plan, we will strengthen all our capacities. Allied deterrence and defense have already been strengthened when Finland and Sweden joined NATO. But the situation is very serious. So let me underscore that the situation in the high north remains calm. Our region is rich in natural resources which are important for the green transition. But not just about the resources, it's also about the people and companies, the expertise and the can-do attitude I know we have in the north. And Nordic cooperation is the best way to develop the full potential of our region. With more people, more jobs, more innovation, even more activity. Greater investments in the defense sector will also affect most other sectors and industries and businesses, especially in the northern region. Construction, energy, trade, travel, and healthcare, as well as in research and closer university cooperation. Our policy is clear. It should be easier to live, do business, access services, and work across our Nordic borders. And that brings me to my next point, which is business opportunities. Businesses in the north are optimistic about the future, and with good reason, because it is not just about future opportunities, but all the great things that are already happening. In industry, we have companies like Elkem Salten, which is one of the biggest and most modern ferrosilicon producers in Europe, and also a leader in energy efficiency. And they are not alone. Many companies in northern Norway are among the best in the world in efficient energy use and low greenhouse gas emissions and circular economy. At Mo Industrial Park, energy is used both twice and three times. And Celsa Steel is Norway's largest producer of reinforcing steel and one of the leading steel recycling companies in the Nordic region. And in Bodø, the company Green Age now develops infrastructure for maritime use of green hydrogen from renewable energy sources. These examples fits perfectly with the Norwegian government's white paper on industry, which I actually will launch tomorrow. And the main message is that we want to continue to develop the existing industry because we have the best skilled workers in the world, I believe. But we have things we have to do to be part of the future also for the industry. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow and discussing industry in the times to come. And almost everywhere and more energy is needed. The renewable energy is key to green industry. So this government will continue to facilitate for new sources, new technologies, and new locations, but also always in balance with local rights and interests. With better processes, we can also get better results faster, which is exactly the essence of the new mineral law that I also will be launching tomorrow. And the most important thing then is to fast track to realizing the potential in Norwegian mining, wealth and industry, which is another key to tomorrow's green industry and another key to developing the potential of the North. And I believe also that cooperation in the Nordic countries is important when it comes to mining. Last but not least, tourism. Hotels in Nordland had 23% more traffic in January 2025 than in 2024. And the prospects for this season looks really good. This makes tourism a very important part of our exports, in line with also the government's ambitions. So, dear friends, There are many reasons why businesses and people in Bodø and in the rest of the Nordic region are optimistic. Like I said, it is not just about natural resources and strategic location. It is always about the people. The spirit that I see when I am back home in the north, and I am sure that you also experience it, you who are now in Bodø, is exactly what we need to realize the region's potential. As with Bodø-Glimt, this region has its place on the world stage. I have to say, I hope there is room also for Tromsø on this football stage this year. So thank you so much for having me on screen. I wish I was there with you face to face, but here we are. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Minister. Today is a big day for us, and tomorrow we heard there will also be important papers coming out, and I must admit I share the admiration for Bodø-Glimt on the world stage. I must also admit that my family is taking this quite harsh, that I do that. But in my perspective, we are all in the north, and we should applaud each other. If it goes good in Finnmark or Nordland or Troms, doesn't matter, it's the north. Okay, so I will invite the three panelists up front here, please. Glenn, Toril, Christian. And I'll introduce you in a second. And I'm not sure if the minister, yeah, you have to stand up. We are sitting here comfortable, but we will try to do this as smoothly as possible. And please let us know if there is any technical issues, especially with the sound. So the framing of this and the planning of this is as follows. We have had a lot of security discussion up here, and for good reasons, obviously. And now we will have that as a curtain behind us, and we will not discuss geopolitics as such. We will address opportunities, and especially in business development, and in a Nordic context. And we will address education and research as one building block, and secondly, infrastructure as a second building block, and then thirdly, how these building blocks can release business development in the Nordic countries. So, Toril Utvik, you are representing an energy company, Equinor. You are the manager of Northern Area Unit. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Glenn Badgaard, you are from Sweden, yes. Vice Chair of the Regional Executive Board in the region Norrbotten. Welcome. And then Christian Iversen, you are Deputy Leader, Young Wing of the Conservative Party in Bodø. But I think you would like to share with us also later that you have more experience to bring to the table. So you are all very welcome to this panel. I think all of us have heard this slogan, high north, low tension, and that was a fundamental guiding in the Arctic conversation some years ago. Nowadays, as we know, combination of military interests, technological achievements, and advancements and climate changes point to an increasingly contested high north. The changing security environment will require careful navigation. So this is a very, very, let's say, dark and important backdrop of our discussion. But now, possibilities. That's what we will address today. And I will start out, before I begin on this education, research, and infrastructure and business development, with a more general question to the Minister of Trade and Industry, Cecilie Myrseth. You have also been very recently the Minister of Fisheries and Ocean Policy in the same ministry. What are your priorities as a minister to unleash the potential and foster business development in the north? That's a very broad question, I know, but please give us your reflections on that.
Well, but it's a quite important question because I believe we have an enormous potential for businesses to grow in our part of Norway because we have industry, we have fisheries, we have fish farming, oil and gas, tourism, minerals, and not least space activities, which I hope we soon will see the first launch from Andøya. I'm really excited for that one. And all of these areas are also part of my responsibilities. And we are launching now new policies for important ones of those. I believe industry is one of the biggest, and if we want to succeed when it comes to the green transition also in the industry, and we want to have an increased capacity when it comes to the industry as a whole, we also need minerals. And the problem is there are no new mining projects ongoing, and that is what we hope to change when we now come with our new law when it comes to minerals. But my biggest concern is, of course, the lack of people, because the people who live in the north is also a really important part of the safety, the being prepared, also for whatever should happen. So it's important in itself that the people live and want to stay in the northern part of Norway, and there we have some challenges. And I believe the government has done some parts to change that, but it is a bigger issue than just some things to solve.
May I just a follow-up, just for clarity, when you say mineral law, is that for minerals on land?
On land, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then one on space, because we had a session yesterday on space, and that's been a topic that has repeatedly been on this High North Dialogue. And I know you have a very passionate approach, and I listened to you in Tromsø not so long ago. And I think it was said here yesterday that we are world leading. We had a Canadian academic here that also looked to Norway. We are influencing also European policies here. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you see Norway in the space industry as being really in the front?
Yeah, we are actually in the front, and that has everything to do with the northern part of Norway. We have access to the polar orbit, so we are downloading data who are being used all over the world. We have we have people and businesses in Tromsø. We have it in Svalbard and Andøya, Narvik, and all of this together also means that we have this complete value chain when it comes to the space industry and space activity. And that's what makes it so exciting. And what this also brings is new technology, other businesses who are growing because of this industry, which we now can see several parts of northern part of Norway who hasn't been big in space before. But this is a really growing industry, and it's also going to be more and more important when it comes to defense. And this was also one of the topics I had when I visited the commissioner for space and defense a couple of weeks ago, and I could with proudness tell him where I was from and what we are doing when it comes to space.
Thank you, and of course also a Nordic potential here, I think. So now I will turn to education and research. Yesterday there was a side event on the Arctic 6, which is a university alliance collaboration between two northern Finnish, northern Swedish, northern Norwegian universities. It started 10 years ago almost. It is collaborating on education, on research, also on outreach, having meetings in Brussels, for example. It's a platform and a collaboration that is established with fellowships and shares and a whole organization. And we think from the universities involved in this that it's a very good platform for further development. And it's also now two other additional kind of priority areas that we call Arctic 6 Extended, one on the green transition, which we will talk about here, and also one on Arctic security. I know that you, Christian, listened to that conversation, But you are free to give your reflections on anything connected to education and research and why young people leave the North or come back to the North or stay in the North. But we are often talking about the lack of skilled workforce, demographic challenges and trends. They are obvious. We need, my statement, we need strong educational and research institutions in the North to support and sustain sustainable societies. But to you, what do you see as pros and cons with today's educational situation in the North? And as I alluded to, what are, in your opinion, the most important factors for young people to stay here, or if they leave, come back again? And can you share some of your experience and insight in that?
Yeah, so one definitely big pros is that we got to leave early from school when Bodø/Glimt won the league. So that's one of the very nice things. But I think also that, especially in the northern part of Norway, also the pupils and the students are also learning about what's going on in the Arctic, especially with this sustainability and how we can make good lives from our perspective. And we also see that the universities in the Nord University and the UiT also has specific studies for how these northern areas work. We see that we have one northern area studies at Nord, which can also help young people understand how the northern and the Arctic situation works and how what you can do to actually contribute in a positive directions. And I also see that various faculties from the universities also try to draw lines to the Arctic and try to bind it up to a situation that is going on. And also, I'm representing now the Young Conservatives, but I have been the chair of the Youth Council for 2 years here in Bodø, and I've also been working very close with the youth project when Bodø was European Capital of Culture last year. So I have a lot of experience with how young people feel about coming from the north and what are the future if they want to be here or they're going to leave. And when I was very active in the youth program, I get to travel a lot, often abroad, and then you see kind of how similar the problems they have in Estonia, they have in Germany, and they have in Sweden on this problem that we also are facing in Bodø and Norway. So I think that we have this Arctic 6 program with the universities, but I also think it is a huge value that also younger people can attend on exchange programs to share their experiences and share their values, because when you get to talk with other European friends, you see that the values that we share are quite similar. And I think that I have my slogan that common problems require also common solutions, because the crisis that we are facing now with a war on our continent and also a climate crisis need that we as a big community and a big society can take actions together, and that is much more valuable than every single nation taking actions on their own. But there is certainly some cons also in the education system. Norway is one of the countries in the OECD countries that uses the much money on the schools and the education system. But as we see in the PISA tests, which is a test who are going to map the basic skills of the student with his reading, writing, and mathematics, we see that compared to how much money we are spending on the educational system, we see that the results we get are very poor. So that means that the student and the pupils aren't learning what they should, and that we have to think a little bit on how we're going to prioritize the education and what the pupils are going to learn, because if it is one thing that is important in every single job, is that you can read, you can write, and you can do basic mathematics. So I think that is something that we should have a discussion on. How are the students on the school, what are they spending the most of their day with, and how can we produce more competent students with the use of the same amount of money, and should we make some adjustments in the plans for how the students are learning, especially in primary school and up to senior high school. And I also think that when I talk to youth, especially last year, they move away because they think that Bodø and Nordland and Troms and Finnmark is boring. There aren't opportunities in these regions, and I think that that's a shame, because I know that there is a lot of opportunities in Nordland, Troms, and in northern Norway, but I am above average engaged youth, so I can't find this information of my own. But I think that many youth don't have the information that is required when you're going to find out where am I going to settle down. And I think that all these very good project that is going on, we see with the UiT and Norwegian University, it isn't the opportunities that are missing, it is the very info.
Thank you. It's always greener on the other side in a way, and we are very attractive to foreign students, but we are moving out. That's so impressingly insightful, and a lot of experience, being only 26 years, isn't that true?
16.
I know. 16. Yeah, that's very, very impressive. Before leaving education and research, and I will save you for the next topic, the infrastructure, so just be patient. Back to the minister. Given the world's increased attention towards the Arctic, which is an asset in many ways, we mentioned space, but in other areas as well, how should Norway maneuver to stay in the front seat with respect to research and innovation, and then to succeed in business development?
Well, I believe the cooperation between the businesses and, of course, the universities and all of the research centers we have all over northern part of Norway is important, because we have first-hand knowledge on the Arctic. We are front runners in many industries, and we have to remember that one of the most important things we have done in the years behind us, I believe, is that we have universities in the northern part of Norway, because this is important for having skilled workers all over, also in small and bigger communities. We have decentralized education, which I believe that other countries also can learn from, because you can actually become a teacher living in my hometown, which is the smallest community in Troms. So this is actually an opportunity which we have made something out of. But I mentioned space earlier on, and because of that, we have a lot of research when it comes to technology from Earth observation. And this, I believe, gives us new opportunities. And we have also one of the best on low emissions metal production in Troms and Nordland, and we are among the most energy efficient, but here there is still more work to be done, and we will become better. But here we have this cooperation between the industry and SINTEF and other research teams, which I believe will be more important. I will also say something about that tomorrow in my white paper. And when it comes to fish farmings, we are a front runner. And the new Minister of Fisheries and Ocean Policies will also deliver a white paper before Easter when it comes to fish farming and its future. And of course, here also research is really important. And last, but I have to also mention that when it comes to tourism, we also need more knowledge, we need more research to make sure that this growth we want also will be sustainable because we have a lot of nature and we have to take care of it.
Thank you. There must be a secret in your hometown that you addressed and referred to, because you must have a world record in producing per capita ministers. So that's a good record. So I turn the page. Now leave education, research, and over to infrastructure, also a very important building block for releasing business potential. First to you, Toril. Norway, and not at least Equinor, supplies Europe with gas these days for reasons that we know very well. At the same time, we have maybe, or I'm not sure, maybe you can give some insight on that. We have a scarcity, a deficit of energy on this side of the border, I mean in Norway. What can we do, knowing that Finland and Sweden, neighbors in the north, also have energy production to coordinate our energy systems? I saw once a graph that said that Norway had a deficit, Sweden had a surplus. In Finland, they made a perfect line, demand and production. Is that the real picture?
Well, I think for sure the role of Norway for supplying Europe of energy has increased and has been the dominating argument the last year. And the trilemma with the security of supply and the affordable energy, and also the need for reduction of CO2 emissions, has really hit us on the balance that we have to have between exporting to Europe and also balancing the internal possibilities for growth locally. So I think this challenge and this is really a dilemma for Norway and also for us as a company, because we see that some of the decisions that we need to take to be able to both be competitive and to also sustain the workplaces that we have locally, and of course also to reduce the emissions, we need to take decisions that affect the total balance of electricity locally. So for us, I don't think I can comment so much on the infrastructure between the countries, because that's something that is decided by others. But of course, the businesses and the needs that we have as a business is important to bring forward, and also, of course, the opportunities that we see across the borders. I think I'll also have been listening to the discussion today, and especially to the green dreams. I feel that there is room for more optimism. Seen from our point of view, from Equinor, for those of you who don't know Equinor, we are a big energy company with 20,000 employees, more than 1,000 of them living in northern Norway, and we have a lot of activity outside on the continental shelf, both outside here in Nordland and also up in the Barents Sea, Norwegian Sea, and the North Sea. But we are growing also in renewables and low carbon solutions. And from the discussions earlier today, it seems like everything is going down when it comes to the energy transition. And from our point of view, we see that having the stamina to work towards a long-term target on this is really what we need. So our strategy stays firm. lowering the emissions related to existing oil and gas operations, and to build a sustainable, renewable part of the company, and also on the new value chains based on, for example, hydrogen. We are working on big projects on floating offshore wind, for example, that is in the UK, it was mentioned this morning, but also outside New York. It is going forward, and also in the Baltic. And we are currently operating the largest floating offshore wind park in the world. So I think there is reasons for optimism. And we have plans for CO2 capture and storage in the North Sea, which equivalents approximately to the amounts that are emitted from Norway in total. And that's within 2030. So I think saying or giving the impression that this is stopping up, there are some bumps, I would say. It's not stopping.
Could you even take the perspective that some of the collapses of the green dreams, the big projects, big companies, Freyr has been mentioned, there has been others, they actually, by collapsing, they give space for smaller enterprises and medium-sized, more diverse, and so on, and that gives room for optimism. Is that the perspective that we can take?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's in a way. We in Norway, we are used to lean on the big income from the sector that I represent, and that might have impacted our ability to be innovative and to look for the opportunities. So I think there is room for looking for new opportunities, strengthening and positioning the supplier industry towards the energy transition, and also and especially here in northern Norway, and also to look across the borders for opportunities.
Thank you. We need to move onwards, and thank you for your patience, Glenn. There are other infrastructure than energy infrastructure, and in your mind, what do you think is the most important now to foster and develop business development?
Together with the northernmost regions in Norway, Nordland, Troms, and Finnmark, and also our neighboring region in Finland, Lapland, our region we have together worked in the Nordkalotte Council and made a statement, and we also presented the idea of the need of infrastructure on roads and railways and so on when the Platform North had the meeting in Luleå in the beginning of February. We see a huge demand for both north-south transport functioning, and we have had larger problems with the iron ore track. We think that the maintenance has to be increased, and also double track has to be established both on the iron ore track and also on Ofotenbanen to take care of all the iron ore that is actually produced, and also to be able to support the northern part of Norway with supplies that is needed. And it was very, it really influenced the road transport when the railway track broke down. And we sincerely also would like to have more and better east-western connection, because we see that there's a large opportunity and also large demand for having better relations in the east-west direction, especially if the Baltic Sea cannot be open, because if the Baltic Sea shut down, 95% of the supplies for Finland will pass through Sweden and Norway, and that cannot be covered and coped with in the already existing infrastructure. It will increase the demand for help from Norwegian harbors, from roads and from railroads, and that has to be taken care of. So we now call upon the infrastructure ministers in these three countries to work together.
Would you think that you point to the Ofotbanen and the double track and so on, would it be easier to get that established because it has also such a strong total defense component and safety or security dimension? You think that couple that with business development?
Now it's strongly needed both for passenger and goods already, and the demand is bigger than the actual supply. So only by this we need it to be improved and to have double tracks. And also if we then introduce also the need for the military, and now since Sweden and Finland also is a member of NATO, we see an increased demand for transport. Even though we know that NATO was really happy when they found out that we in Sweden had a railway track, Inlandsbanan, without any signal system or electricity, because it's very difficult then to shut down. So they want to use that one. Unintelligent analog
I think you
system.
mentioned when we had this planning meeting or we prepared ourselves, you said something that the different width on the tracks in Finland compared to Sweden, Norway, that wasn't a big issue really?
Well, that can be managed. I mean, between Portugal and Spain, you also have the same differences in gauge for the railway track. And now actually Finland has electrified the railway track between Kemi and into Haparanda, so it's possible for passengers just to cross the platform using Swedish trains to Haparanda and then going on Finnish trains. And there also seems that there has been an opening in Finland to actually accept that tracks connected with Sweden could also be on the Swedish or more international gauge into Finland as well in the future.
I know I can't ask the Minister for leakage from the white paper tomorrow, but could I ask a different question? Is it worthwhile in the perspective of infrastructure to listen to the presentation and launch?
It's a nice try, Jan-Gunnar.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was a straight answer. Okay, I'm turning the page, business development, and I will take the introduction in the way we often hear it. Companies in the north are small, maybe medium size. They can't, let's say, compare with the muscles from national and international companies. But I know, Toril, you have been in the midst of a cluster in energy in the north, that maybe can compensate for us being small. Can you describe and also take us into the Swedish and Finnish counterpart examples, if they exist, and how you see maybe also education and research can be connected to these kind of clusters?
Yeah, I can say a few words. And my starting point is that I'm working a lot with local value creation from the activities that we have in Equinor. And doing that, we observe that we don't have much activity on the energy transition in the north, or we used not to have. And then we started to discuss how can we position and help the transition to happen also in the north, not only on the west coast of Norway. And we started to discuss, could we, in a way, try to put together a kind of national team in northern Norway with the different industries. And we discussed that, and I think it was during COVID, we launched a pre-project just asking around if it was interest for looking into how can we strengthen the energy transition and also make local value creation from the energy transition in the north. And we got a huge response. So at that time, I think it was about 40, 50 companies, and it was initiated by the industries that met and at teams at that time, and also discussed how to move forward as a cluster. So there was an application for establishing a cluster, and we got the approval, and then we started the cluster Energi i Nord. And that has been a very good meeting place to discuss and to share experiences on different parts of the value chain of the energy transition, both on the production of renewable energy, the transport and storage, and also the market, because it's very often the lack of the market that stops initiatives. And having a value chain perspective might help, even it's not the biggest business opportunities, it might be local opportunities that could be taken forward. So that was the idea, and now we have been working through several years, and we see that this is a good way of collaborating. Energi Nord has also a 50% position at the UIT, coordinating towards the Arctic 6 collaboration. And through that collaboration, some contacts in Sweden and Finland developed. And then it was also developing towards the local industries in Sweden and Finland. So now we have started to get to know each other better, and we have had trips to visit Sweden and see what's going on in northern Sweden around the green steel and the initiatives that we have heard of earlier today. And we have also been to Finland, to Oulu, to visit the university and also the local industries there. So I think we are starting to get to know each other better and look into how this value chain perspective can be applied also across the borders.
Thank you. I will then ask Glenn, maybe also if you can take Finland into the equation. I think you have some insight there. And then I will ask you, Minister, if you would like to comment on this clustering and collaboration across borders and within nations, within one team and so on. Before we have to land, and I would like to spare quite a few minutes to the audience. I think it's an important part of our conversation, our dialogue, that the audience can ask questions. So this kind of teaming up perspective, can you tell us the Swedish story and maybe a little bit of the Finnish one?
Yeah, we have had some different types of clusters. Some of them have been going on quite well, for instance, in the mining. We have something that's called G-Range that also has affected what type of education or study program there should be in the universities. We have one related to the car testing industry that's been going on also quite well, and also been a force in having the university establish distance-based or decentralized engineering program devoted towards car testing. We have also one in composite, and perhaps we also have one in space, of course, and we hope that we would be the first European country to launch satellites, but we are not going to be that, so good luck to Norway. We have had also a very expensive sector, and that's the tourism. And that network and that cluster has also had collaboration with similar clusters in a joint project both in Finland and in Norway as well. So it has been more internationalized, even though the other ones also has connections with similar networks in other neighboring countries, of course. But in the tourism field, it has been more obvious and visible in a way.
So what I hear, Cecilia, is that many things are going on within countries, across countries, and we have raised our bars. But you see the Nordic and this whole kind of business dimension from so many other kind of angles. Would you add something or on this discussion, or give us some, let's say, fuel?
Well, my whole political life, I have been a part of these Nordic cooperation, the Barents cooperation, the Arctic cooperation, and even when I was the chair of the county council in Troms, we had a lot of cooperation also through our European offices, because I believe that we have to cooperate in the north. Between businesses, politicians have to cooperate and know each other and learn from each other. And of course, the university has to do so as well, as they actually do a lot. But also when it comes to Arctic questions, Northern Nordic questions, we also have to have a cooperation inside of the EU discussions as well, and I believe we do so. So this is really important, and I'm just glad to see that it's going strong, and it should be even stronger in the time to come because of also the situation we now are in.
Thank you. Toril, you wanted to have?
Yeah, short comment,
Yeah.
because I think it's also one important aspect with the Nordic collaboration that we should mention, and that's the educational part, since there is so many young people here. I think what we have been looking at now is how can we collaborate across to get the labor market across the borders as well, and we have specific programs for students also that we open up across the borders, like the North Development Program in Equinor, that is possible to apply for with some kind of local belonging, or yeah. So I think that's also something to be aware of.
We are about to land this panel discussion before we open for questions from the audience. But Christian, back to you. Now we are here on the stage. You will see this big audience, and there are people also looking at this digitally. You have the minister here. What is your biggest ask from people in positions from your perspective? That's number one. Number two is, are you, the young ones, taken into account in the decision making as you wanted it, or what potential do we have?
Yeah, so from my point of view, I feel that I have very good opportunities for to be heard and to contribute with my experiences. But right now, for me, is that I will work for those people who not want to raise their voice, and those who not are talking the loudest, that they also can have their voice heard. And I also think that all these things that you have discussed in the panel is also related to how you see the region. Like, we have infrastructure. The one essential thing to actually live in a society is that you can travel back and forth, and we see that especially in Nordland, the road net is quite bad, and it says a number on that. So if the county receives the same amount of assets and the same amount of supplies from the government, it will take 200 years, if we continue now, to completely enhance the roads. And also the train tracks also in Nordland, which are having huge deficits in locomotives, which also now affects the businesses as well as the persons. And you also think, when I worked especially in the last year with the European Capital of Culture, I met very many grown-ups who had thought what are schools for youth, and they on their own have tried to find out what the youth wants, and it is a completely different reality when you actually talk to the youth. So yes, we are facing dire straits when it comes to population and the demographic numbers. And yes, we need more people to come and stay in the north. But I think we actually have to ask the youths what they think. Why are you leaving? And what means must it take to have them to stay here? Because I don't think, with all due with respect, I think that it has to be on the premises of the youth, that the youth are staying, not that the grown-ups are trying to think like a youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, would you send with us a take-home message from your point of view after this session?
And I just have to say I'm grateful for you having me by screen. And I think it's quite interesting just to be here and listening to you all. And I also agree we have to listen to the young people, what they need to. One thing is to take education in the northern part of Norway, but the other thing is we need to have exciting jobs and good communities where they want to move back and maybe have children and get married in the northern part of Norway. But that's a responsibility that lies on us all. But we have to listen. But I think that in these quite uncertain times, we have to remember that there is a lot of big possibilities as well, and we need to also have some kind of hope and things to look forward to. So I believe that we have our region, which is where stability and trust is important, and that is also good for businesses. So I would just hope that the next year you maybe will have me back, and then the plane will have a good wheel.
Yeah. Thank you, and I hope you can stay with us 10 more minutes, because now we will have questions. And you perfectly made a circle without knowing it, because the webinar in the first evening, there were several in this panel saying that we need to have the hope, and the mayor said it very, very precisely. I don't spend energy on things I can't have any influence on. I just spend my energy in what I can do, and that's in a way a survival tactic, but there is also a lot of wisdom in that. So please, questions for anybody at the panel, the minister, raise your hand. Where is the mic? Yeah, we can start there and then we go to you. Yes.
First of all, thank you everyone for this insightful panel. And since we're discussing young people and discussing how they can pave the way, how we can pave for them the way, and how they can walk on this way to the future, I think that it's also important that we acknowledge that for young persons, for us, saying that in Buda or in Nordland they can have the same amount of possibilities as in Oslo, I think it's naive. I think what we should focus on is that there is the quality or the type of opportunities, or as we mentioned now, the type of community that there is something that can be in the long term attractive. But I think it's not the good starting point to say we should tell them like that Oslo is not more interesting for international politics or stuff, but we should tell them that like in the long term, this is a more person-sized space maybe, or something like that.
Thank you. I don't think that was a particular question, so I just take it as an intervention. Here is one in the front here on row 2. Yeah, let's see.
So first, thank you very much. I'm Rachel Watson, and I'm with the High North Dialogue Academy, as these guys are here. I'm also just a question in regard to youth retention in the north. I think it's super important. I was wondering, you were discussing with universities, there's quite clear access and routes of what's available in the north of the Arctic. I was wondering, what is the system in the lower levels of education, and whether you think this is robust enough, and if not, whether if a more robust system of this would help increase awareness from a younger age, which would then help increase retention later on. And also we've been discussing in the academy the awareness and presence of Sami culture and language. And I wonder, in the UK, like Welsh, for example, is accessible to both Welsh students and English students, as whether if this was opened up, that Sami lessons could be available to everyone, whether this would help increasing stronger, more resilient communities, again, to create like a stronger and more round place for youth to want to stay and be more aware of their surroundings. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
When it comes to language, in Sweden, every person that belongs to the national minority has the right to have education in their mother tongue. So it's available both from childcare throughout the school system. And it's possible to have that in any municipality that has taken on the responsibility to manage at least one of the national minorities.
I'm wondering though if that was opened up to everyone, not just the minority, but the entire
We also try to provide through, we have a web page that's called Biblioteket, which has been launched 20 years ago, where we offer also different type of languages, and we are trying to establish more and more of the Samic languages to make sure to everyone that's young that want to interact with others on their mother tongue. So that's a possibility. But we don't offer language teaching for grown-ups in that way.
Christian, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, in Nordland, Troms and Finnmark, in northern part of Norway, one who is attending high school, and so from 8th to 13th grade, one is entitled, if one wills, can have their education on Sami language. And if you are attending primary school, you can have your mother tongue as an education form, and also that all books and all lecture books in the primary school should also have copies in Sami, so people can practice and kids can practice their language. And also you asked about if the lower and primary education system are robust. If you look at the test scores comparing the other nations in Europe, we see that the kids tend to score lower than the average, even though we spend a lot of money on it, and also that we see that the concentration among the students are also going down. So I think that we have a very good education system in Norway, but I think that we can do some minor adjustments to actually help the kids and the youth learning what they should.
Thank you, Christian. And I think time is here. I would like to thank the audience, the minister. I'm really sorry that you couldn't make it, and the panel, of course, and a big applause to all of us, maybe.